Hi, my name is Gayatri, and in this version of Hello World, I'm going to show you how to um, add an existing file to an existing project. So in the previous video, we saw how to create a new empty project, create a new file, and type up this Hello World program that you see here. This time, I'm going to show you a downloaded file. If you look in your learning management system, you will see all the code files that I use in these videos. And what I have done is I have downloaded a couple of these files, and I have essentially put it in one of my folders here under Documents 161. And if you go look at video code files, I just happen to download them here. Now, the best bet for you is when you download them, wherever they are, it's good to have a copy in your projects folder, which is, so I'm going to right click on this file and say copy, and I'm going to put it in my documents. I have a project folder under Visual Studio 2012 or 13, whichever one you're using. I happen to be using the 2012 version. Projects. And if you notice, my project here in the background here in Visual Studio is called Hello Class. So you want to make sure that you go into the Hello Class folder. And there is another folder by the same name, Hello Class. You want to go into that. And this is where you will see all your CPP files. I noticed my first program here in the Visual Studio editor that I have here is right here. So I'm going to right click here and paste that Hello World program. So now my code exists in this folder. Not that you cannot add it from the other folder, but there are a lot of other reasons for starters, for beginners to have this code in this folder. Now we are going to go to Visual Studio and I'm going to show you how to copy or how to insert that existing file. So I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to say, so what we do is we right click on your code file and we say exclude from project, which means we are not quite deleting it, but we are simply taking it away from the project. And then we are going to go back into it, right click and say add existing item, not a new item, existing item, because we already have this item created. And I'm going to now, if you look, this is its default folder and it brings it up. And there is my hello world.cpp. And you add that and I'm simply double clicking on it. And this is the code file that you see that you download from the learning management system, or if somebody sends you anything, this is the file, and that's how you include an existing file. Now let's take a look at this. This has a few comments, so all of your programs should really have some comments like this. It tells you what the program does. Written by, I'm going to change this to my name, Gayatri, since I'm changing it here. So you put your name here. If you are collaborating with somebody, I'd really like you to write it separately, but you must have both names if you work with somebody. And the date, let me put today's date, June 26th, 2014. And that is the date when it was written. And if you make any changes, sources is where if you get any outside help, always cite all sources. So if you get any help from a website, it's always good to add all of those things in here. And so these are all the standard things that you should have in a program. Now, IO stream is essentially a header file, a library file that we need by ANSI standards. IO stands for input output. Stream is our data stream. So to be able to read and write data, we need IO stream. Really, we don't need the string. I'm going to take that out because we don't need it yet for this file. We need the using namespace std. We will see that as we go along as to why we need some of these things. And in this program, all we have again is the same as our Hello World program. And I'm going to take this section off. Ideally, we don't need that, and I'm going to show you what that does as we write more programs. All we need is cout says console out, hello world, whatever we want to put in there, and the end line, which takes it to the new line, and the return 0 statement, which says our code is pretty much done. So again, if we do function or just F7, we'll build this code, and Control F5 will run it. And as you notice, it says hello world and takes the cursor to the next line. The press any key to continue comes from Visual Studio. If you create the project the way I showed you as an empty project, it should automatically wait for the screen for you to hit enter, and then it closes. Now the end line, notice what it does is if I don't have the end line, build it and run it. Notice the press any key to continue goes on the same line as the hello world. And so it's really to make your output look a lot nicer than what it does sometimes without the end line. So this kind of gives you an idea of how you need to write a program with the comments, with some of the comments that you should have in all your programs. And again, this is the same as the previous one.